Hey guys, this video is going to be all about conceptualizing summons heroes that have abilities that create units, and understanding exactly how to deal with them and what these heroes offer to the game if you're looking to play them or you're struggling to play against them. Let's go ahead and get started.
Banana slam jam.
So the number one misconception that people have about summons heroes is that people think if your hero has AoE, whether it's like cleave or a battle fury, that naturally makes you good against summons. They think the way to deal with summons heroes is to kill their summons in an AoE, right? And that makes sense. But let me just tell you that is inaccurate, and then now let me prove it to you. So what summons heroes do is that they're pretty much determined based in the meta, based on whether or not their items are good. I want you to think about how illusions scale, because they all do % damage, and they scale off your stats. Summons scale based on your auras, right? Whether you have Vlad's for lifesteal and damage, or AC for attack speed and minus armor and plus armor, or you have pipe to keep them alive. So if the aura items are good in the meta, generally summons heroes will be good in the meta. So in this game that I pulled up here, my team has an offlane Beastmaster, and the opponent team has an offlane Broodmother. It's like a perfect game to understand, the dynamic that summons heroes create in the game. So we're just gonna fast forward a bit, and I wanna talk about exactly what this dynamic is. So summons heroes, they're able to push lanes and pressure towers without putting their actual hero at risk. This is the biggest component of summons heroes. They basically function by having the informational advantage and the positional advantage because they can throw summons at you while most heroes have to clear them with their actual hero, which puts that hero naturally at risk. So because of this dynamic, summons heroes, once they usually get like a level 6 timing, or in the case of Beastmaster, Helm of the Dominator. So once they get a level 6 timing, or in the case of Beastmaster, an item, the Helm of the Dominator, they start to be able to pressure lanes. So what that means is you're going to see here that over time, they will eventually wear the tower down by virtue of sending their summons and their hero being safely positioned. And meanwhile, the Broodmother's doing the exact same thing in the bottom lane. So this is the dynamic that is created every single game when you have a summons hero in it. And this is how you want to look to use summons. So what you did see there was Beastmaster attempting to TP to a fight in the mid lane. And while Beastmaster has a stun, generally speaking, summons heroes, they don't TP very well. Because unlike illusion heroes who TP in and then summon illusions, most summons heroes have to kind of build up their army, or they have some sort of cooldown that they're based on. So they can't TP very well. These heroes don't rotate very well. They're all about pressuring the same tower over and over again and keeping that pressure up in the same area. So even though he debated TPing mid, he ended up canceling and staying top. So that's a really important thing to consider, is that if you're against summons heroes, a lot of times you can look to pressure other lanes in a case where you might usually be afraid of the offlaner, right, who's a summons hero, and know that summons hero does not want to rotate to you. So this is the dynamic, right? This tower is getting pushed, this tower is getting pushed, and there's several types of heroes that can deal with summons heroes. This is really important, because this is the dynamic that is most signature of summons heroes, okay? And the heroes that do this are heroes that are super tanky, that the summons hero doesn't feel comfortable killing. In this case, a Morphling. We think of like Tide Hunters, Bristlebacks, Timbersaws, basically beefy bodies that wouldn't die to the summons plus a disable. So these are the first heroes that can defend or deal with summons heroes. The next step is actually illusion heroes. There's a bit of like a rock, paper, scissors dynamic where maybe it's just rock and paper, where if summons heroes are good in the meta, generally speaking, illusion heroes skyrocket in value. And this is because the summon heroes capitalize on this positional and information advantage, and illusion heroes can kind of do the same thing. I want you to think of summons heroes as like more powerful early game illusion heroes and slightly weaker late game illusion heroes, right? Because their summons don't scale like illusions do, but they are stronger with just raw levels. That's why right now, for instance, in 7.32C, that Naga Siren is like one of the best carries in the game at my bracket, because she's the best illusion hero just based on buffs and nerfs, and she deals with these summons heroes quite well. And there's a lot of summons heroes right now. So it's heroes that are too tanky, illusion-based heroes that can defend the tower or kill the summons without actually putting their hero at risk. And the last one is long-range clear that doesn't jeopardize you. So when we talk about heroes from long range, it kind of goes the idea of, yes, you have to show yourself to kill these summons, but you're so far away, the summons heroes who usually lack long range catch or disables can't kill you anyways. So in this case, it usually comes from the supports. So some of the best supports, if you're struggling with summons heroes as a support player, are the ones with really long range, wave clear, and tower defense. In this case, they have a Phoenix. Another example would be Winter Wyvern, being very good against summons with her Splinter Blast. In this case, I actually last picked Legion Commander Carry for this exact reason. Broodmother pushing my tower with spiders, long range clear where I don't have to put myself at risk to defend my tower. Same idea, right? And what you're going to see here is once Morphling continues to get pressured, notice how this tower is getting pressured, this tower is getting pressured. Whoever's on the other team is on the defensive, right? They are relieving the pressure. And against summons heroes, however long you can keep this tower alive is pretty much an indication of how well the game's going, because that's their sole purpose in life, is to take this tower. So we fast forward and we see that Morphling's basically handed off the lane to Phoenix, who's a really nice long-range wave-clearing support who doesn't have to be anywhere near the Beastmaster just to relieve this pressure. So summons heroes, you're either hardcore committing to the tower if you're able to, or you kind of just go back and forth jungling when you feel like the opponent's brought an adequate response to you. So it's basically like force them to respond. If they don't, kill tower. If they do, back off. And this is what summons heroes offer the game. So when you're playing against them, it's really important to understand, at least make an educated guess of how much of a response is necessary. Because the worst thing you can do is fight into a summons hero because they love you fighting into them. Like I said, they're not mobile on the map. And they have the vision advantage, they see you coming, and not have enough heroes to do it. That is the worst thing you can do. So what happened was Broodmother starts jungling bottom because me plus my support defended the tower, and Beastmaster, because he's not getting any help, is giving up trying to kill the tower because of Phoenix. So summons heroes kind of create this dynamic of both teams having to consider how much it takes to get that tower. So notice how the opponent brings a hero top, and a lot of times if you have a summons hero on your team and you're a support or a mid laner, and you see that the opponent is defending their tower with the minimal resources, then what you'll want to do is rotate to your offlaner to kind of tip the scales, right? So what you're going to see is my team making a 3-man move to basically say, this Phoenix, that's not allowed to be, that's a support effectively canceling out our offlaner, and they're going to create a dive scenario. And look at how I'm playing bottom, because I'm like trying to relieve the pressure against the Brood in the meantime. So if you can create pressure on the opponent tower with a summons hero and defend your own tower, it's super impactful. So what happens here is most fights in summons games will be directly into the summons hero, because it's really important to try to bring the fight to them, but you got to do it smart. Because summons heroes give them vision, notice how Beastmaster has a hawk, Lycan can scout you with wolves, Nature's Prophet can send like one treant over. They almost always see you coming. So in this case, I saw as a player on Radiant that like, oh, the opponent didn't do anything fancy. They just walked at us. That's kind of lazy. It's not good. And them fighting into us is exactly what we want. So I immediately TP, show up to the fight, and we bring down, like we take a good fight, right? And we're going to fast forward a bit. So generally speaking, you want a hero on your team who is dedicated to dealing with summons heroes. You basically lose to summons heroes if you don't have a hero in your lineup that's best at dealing with them. So on the enemy team, it's Phoenix from long range. So notice how Phoenix is going to consistently play top. And for me, it's the same idea against Broodmother with overwhelming odds. So it's me playing bottom. This is like the perfect setup from both teams at like a high level of understanding how to deal with summons heroes. But once again, you're going to see the reverse where like I'm playing the dangerous part of the map, thinking I'm survivable. I'm going to get dove. The opponent makes the same move we did, right? They see that one player on our team is effectively negating the summons hero's pressure, and they're going to gank me. My team's going to try to respond. Generally, this is just not good for the team responding. I highly recommend, if you are going to deal with summons heroes, that you either preemptively smoked to take them down, or if somebody else is casually dying to them, that you don't TP in like this. It's really dangerous to like lazily respond to summons heroes. So I'm basically emphasizing this is how summons heroes work. And if you're not prepared for it, just cut your losses. Just accept that that guy fed and make sure you don't chain feed anymore. Because what happens is they almost always end up getting the tower anyways, like in this case. And it's better to give them the tower than also feed 2 heroes, right? On top of giving them the tower. So the deal with these summons heroes is we talked about the 3 types of heroes to deal with them. Beefy boys that stand in front that can't die. We talked about illusion heroes that don't have to jeopardize their real hero. And we also talked about heroes that deal with them from really long range. So there's all types of archetypes for dealing with them. And the most important thing about this is that none of these heroes that I say are good against or summons fit the description of a melee hero that has to be on top of the wave that is generally kind of squishy in the early to mid game. Like, you want to think about the information of, if I'm playing this hero and say I have a Battle Fury or I have Cleave like with Sin, if I'm on top of the wave, am I just going to die? Like, if I just put myself melee range, am I a hero that wants to get initiated onto, like Anti-Mage, Faceless Void, PA, Juggernaut, Ursa, right? None of these heroes want to sit on top of a wave and wait for this impending doom, because that's what summons heroes kind of represent, is that impending pressure that is going to be pushed onto you. So I so often get the comment of, aren't Battlefield heroes that clear summons good against summons heroes? And the answer is no. They put themselves at risk on top of the creep wave. They are not good against summons heroes. So if you do end up in a game where you're playing one of these Battle Fury carries or like melee heroes that just don't deal with summons very well, just remember this dynamic of what these summons heroes create. And don't put yourself in front of the tower trying to defend against them, because you're basically a sitting duck. You're going to have to accept that you got counterpicked, that you're not in the best scenario for your hero. Let that summons hero take over your tower and that area of the map, and basically accept that you'll have less space on the map until you get a few items. And so if you feel like you can't deal with these summons heroes, sometimes you just get cheesed. 10th pick Broodmother. If you have last pick, you can consider, like, I want to make sure I don't get summons cheesed, and pick like Illusion Hero, right? To make sure you deal with it. But if you do get cheesed, it's all about recognizing a moment in the game where you think you can kill them. Because summons heroes, this is how they play. They just walk back and forth between top and mid as Radiant, bottom and mid as Dire, very few exceptions, unless they're literally walking to an objective. And they create pressure on that area. And it just creates this dynamic where you see 2 summons heroes in this game, and you'll understand that the map is basically mirrored. If one team has a summons hero and the other team does not, then usually what happens is the team with the summons hero, like in this case the Broodmother, would be creating pressure down here, and the other team will probably have like a playmaking team fighter type offlaner. And what that means is that the team with the team fighting playmaker will want to make sure they're not losing towers for free. And once they've relieved the pressure, go force a team fight, because you don't have like that pressure of your own to play off of. Notice how my team like played off the pressure here, and the other team played off this Broodmother pressure. You just won't have that same pressure. So relieve the pressure and then go kill. So this may seem like a relatively advanced concept in regards to watching an immortal game of how teams play around summons. But it's really important that you guys can kind of get a sense of what these heroes do for you, and understand that as a summons hero player, a lot of times you don't feel all that fancy. Like, you don't feel like you're doing that much in the game, and a lot of people will feel rushed. They'll be like, I don't have that Ravage or that Arena from Mars where I'm like taking over the team fight. But what summons heroes do is they consistently force reactions with the ability to not die to them unless the opponent is coordinated and smoking on you. So if you can learn to master that, just kind of poke the enemy team consistently with that pressure, it can absolutely be game winning. And play around the strengths of these summons heroes to make sure you're not overly reacting to anything your team is doing elsewhere. And as long as you're pressuring the right lanes, pressuring the right objectives like Roche and all that kind of stuff, summons heroes can absolutely carry the game, just like you saw 33 at TI 11. So thanks for watching, guys. Fundamental conceptualization of summons heroes. And I hope this better helps you guys address them in your games, or maybe motivate some of you to play them. They can be pretty fun. Knowing the enemy team is great fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. See you next time.